Hello, everyone. Back for another episode of In the Design Lounge. This is still a collaboration series. And the guest I have on today, I mean, who doesn't know who the guest I have on today? Everyone should know world famous interior designer, TV extraordinaire, book author. I mean, so much can go on. But if you've been living under a rock and don't know who this person is, I'll let him explain to himself what it is he does, who he is, and what he does.
You want me to introduce myself?
Yeah. Talk about it. Yeah, you talk about
My
the
least favorite
wonderful.
thing to do, talk about myself.
Well, I mean, I already said how amazing and accomplished and design and author. And I mean, we can leave it at that. But if you want to add a little, some tidbits, and you can go ahead.
I'm Bobby Berk. You probably know me
Yeah,
best from one of the co-hosts of Queer Eye for 9 seasons. As
yes.
you said, I'm also an author. I'm an interior designer, a husband, a dog dad, an Angelino. Yeah, which I
Okay.
think my dog is about to bark because my husband is coming home at the moment. So if you hear a bark, I'm so sorry.
No worries. No worries. That's how we know this is real. We can always take out the background noise anyway. So I mean, we could talk about so many different things. You have so much going on, right? Your history and design, the TV show. But I want to start out by thanking you because little do you know that I've been on like this pancake kick recently. And I went to your website and it actually had a recipe for how to improve your box pancakes.
Oh,
And so I've been
I love
I've
it.
been trading. I was going. I was like, okay, let me check this out. And I see. I thought it was just going to be primarily design, but you have fashion, you have
Uh-huh.
recipes, you have fitness, and I was like, there's this pancake recipe we talked about earlier offline about the law of attraction. I've been gorging on pancakes for the last 3 4 weeks. I don't know what it is, and I blame it on my half marathon training. But I went there and I shared it immediately. So thank you for that.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, we try to be pretty well rounded on bobbyberk.com. It definitely is, more design focused, but there's food, there's fitness, there's health, there's fashion, there's all kinds of things.
Everything. So I want to get into all that, but let's go back to the beginning. Early 2000s New York. I want to talk about the design aspect, but just how did early 2000s New York like impact and inform your taste and your style at the time, being from like the Midwest and things like that?
Yeah, it definitely, living in New York, young and poor, it definitely taught me how to utilize small spaces and maximize real estate. And also it taught me how to be a minimalist. I used to
Yes,
like to
yeah.
collect crap, and now I don't. I don't,
You
which you
you
would,
can't really be a
yeah.
hoarder in New York, right? I mean, it's
No.
almost impossible.
Yeah, and especially like I moved around a lot in New York, and so
Okay.
it's expensive to move in New York, so it's best when you can fit everything in a suitcase and a cab.
Yeah, totally. I know you started grinding your teeth, Bed Bath and Beyond,
Mhm.
Restoration Hardware. how did that how did that inform you? Did it confirm or enhance your perspective on just the importance of design? Because you're coming into contact with so many different people and the
Mhm.
impact it has on people. How did those early years inform that impact?
I ended up at Restoration Hardware and Bed Bath Beyond, not necessarily because I love design, which I did, but because
Yep,
I was in retail management. That was my background.
gotcha.
I left high school at 15. I worked my way
Okay,
up
oh,
through
okay.
retail. Yeah. And so I ended up, the first job I was able to get in New York was at Restoration Hardware. And it was great because it combined my experience in retail management, but also design, which I loved and I always dabbled in. And I always, was that person that was moving every year because I had moved my apartment around 100 times in that year and I was bored and I wanted to move on to the next one. That stopped in New
Yeah,
York because it was too expensive to do that. Um, but yeah, I mean, working retail design first, I think really did help me see the importance of it. It's a lot of, not necessarily Bed Bath & Beyond, because that Bed Bath & Beyond wasn't really designed. They definitely had home
yeah,
stuff, but it was more, especially in New York, that Bed Bath & Beyond was really the only place to get anything in the early
yeah,
2000s. Like there was no Target, there was no Home Depot, there was no Walmart, there was no nothing. You either went to
yeah.
Walgreens or Dwayne Reed, or you went to that one Bed Bath & Beyond. It's crazy
Totally.
that one Bed Bath & Beyond did more business in a day than entire regions would do in a week.
That's
Like
crazy.
that, there was a room upstairs in that Bed Bath & Beyond where literally there were 5 people that did nothing all day but just count cash. That store, it's crazy that well, it's not crazy that they went out of business. I know why they did, because they don't value their
Yeah.
people. But I digress. But Restoration Hardware was a lot of fun because Restoration Hardware was actually designed. Like I got to help people pick out furniture. And one thing that really I learned at Restoration Hardware was scale and sizing. A lot of
Yes.
times people don't think about that. Like, how's the size of the sofa going to fit in the scale of my home? And because Restoration Hardware is definitely more of that store made for sprawling homes, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily
Mm-hmm.
for New York City apartments, we
Yes.
always had to get really creative on what we could sell to people in New York because a lot of people wanted Restoration Hardware in their apartment, but a lot of people couldn't fit Restoration Hardware in their apartment. We
Without
had
question.
one sofa called the Lancaster sofa, and we just called it the big ass sofa because everybody wanted it. But
Nobody could get it.
although
Nobody could fit it.
no one could fit it through the hallways. Like the amount of
Okay.
sofas, we actually had a company that we used daily that would go to people's buildings as they were trying to get a delivery because they never measured like they were supposed to
Of
because the
course.
sofas wouldn't fit down their halls. They wouldn't go around the corner. So this company would come and cut the sofa in half, put it in their apartment, and then reassemble it in their apartment. And it happened
Reassemble it.
every single day. No matter how we stressed to these customers, we're like, now, did you measure your hall? Not just your apartment, but the hallway. Yes, 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 we
Right.
did. And then they call, this won't fit. I'm like, well, so we'd send
We
that company
told
out and
you.
cut it out.
We
So
told you.
working retail because again, as a designer, you don't necessarily always think about those type of things. But I like that I got
Absolutely.
that background first because it really helped me think about the process of design from literally in the store to in the home. And it's not just about picking out pretty things. Often it's about measuring properly. And a lot of times the people that would say they were measured were designers that the customers had hired to pick stuff out and the designers wouldn't have. So again, doing design in that way really taught me the things that as a designer, you need to just double check, triple check, quadruple check to make sure that that sofa that you made that customer fall in love with is going to fit in their home.
Right, exactly, exactly. You think that's design 101, but you see, obviously, sometimes the insiders even overlook that.
Yep.
Fast forward, 2018, Queer Eye, again, you're already successful at this point, right? You started your business in 2006, you have your firm
Hmm.
2015, like you're already successful. I had a previous guest on, Karen Bond. She had a show on Netflix, ironically,
Uh-huh.
Restaurants on the Edge, and I wanted to ask you the same question I asked her. What were you surprised about by that series? Not only the series' success, but how it impacted your business? Because one thing she mentioned was like, "Oh, I didn't realize how it was going to affect my management being in all these other countries designing, and my practice in Vancouver, BC. Hers, particularly is
Hmm.
Vancouver, BC. But how were you surprised by that show, and how did it change? Like, I'm sure increased the growth, but how did it change how you looked at your
So
business?
for my design firm, it hasn't affected it. Like we actually
Okay,
we don't take on residential clients.
gotcha. Okay,
Um, our
which is
firms,
surprising.
well, we
People would
do and we
assume. People
don't.
would assume. Okay.
We
Okay.
do and
Okay.
we don't. So my firm solely focuses on working with builders
Yes.
and in the last few years, specifically exclusively to one builder, Tri Pointe Homes, which
Hmm.
I think they're in like 25 markets in the U.S. now. I think they're the fifth or sixth largest builder in the U.S. And I started out working with them in 2014. I designed show
Yeah,
homes
I
for
saw
them
that.
for
I
the
saw that.
International Builder Show, and we've just built our relationship up over the last 10 years. And they keep us so busy that it's almost impossible. Like we could grow more, but honestly, I don't want to. I'm happy at the size we are. I don't need 50 employees. I'm happy with my
Yeah.
15. Like when you get more than that, it's not it's not fun anymore. You're no longer
Yeah.
designing, you're managing teams. Which,
Yeah.
when I had my retail stores at one point, I think I had like 87 employees, and it takes on a whole different monster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every once in a while, we will take on residential clients,
Okay.
but it takes a year and a half, sometimes 3 years to do one residential project, where in 3 years with TriPoint, we would have done hundreds of homes.
Yeah.
Um, so we kind of like the fast pace of working with a builder. There's no emotion involved in it. When you're designing for a residential client, this is their home. This is where they're going to live. This is where they're going to raise their family. This is where they host. So there's a lot of emotion into it. And it's not just about what you want to do as a designer. It's about what they want to do. And it's also sometimes if it's a married couple or a couple, they want to do opposite, and you end up being a marriage counselor. And designers always say, we're not just designers, we're marriage counselors.
Without question.
And
Without question.
yeah, and so what I love about a builder is there is zero emotion in it. The
Mm,
only
okay.
restriction is budget.
Yeah.
And yeah, they don't, as long as it's pretty, they're not living in it. They just want it to look as good as possible and you to be as creative as possible. So every time my team has been like, because we get inquiries all the time because of the show, like, can we take on
No
this?
question.
And I'm like, no. And then sometimes I'll say yes. And they're like,
You
you're right. They're like,
you're right.
God,
We
this,
could, but
they're like, they've been such nice clients, but oh my God, it takes them forever to make a decision. And they're like, you're right, you're right. I'm like, I've been doing this for a while. I have found our groove. I know it
yeah,
works. I know, and again, like working with a builder, for the most part, it's a 9 to 5 job. When you
yeah.
have residential clients, you're getting those texts at 11 o'clock at night. You're going
Oh,
shopping with
it's
them
all
on the
day.
weekends. Yeah, yeah. It is an all day thing. So we
Yeah,
love our builder partner. They're amazing.
totally.
And, the great thing about Tri Pointe is they're a very design focused builder. A
Hmm.
lot of more quote unquote mass builders are just all
Yeah,
about the bottom line and, replicating everything as much as possible because that's the cheapest way to do it. Where Tri Pointe, from the very first home I ever did with them, they've always been willing to push the envelope with design and let me, within reason, do what I want to do. And they feel more like a custom home builder than a more of a mass home builder. Yeah.
yeah. No, and that's what I got. Looking at that Altera project in Seattle, or I guess Newcastle, Washington.
Yeah.
Talk more about that one because these are exquisite homes. This is not. I mean, we talked about going back to New York where he said the home couldn't fit those big couches. These homes can fit those
Oh
couches. These
yeah.
are big enough. These are
Yeah.
these are these are these are like custom homes. But even within that, it seems like you already have like the different type of design. Whatever they're like, right? You have these almost packages and finishes based upon their proclivity to design. Talk about this project.
Yeah. So the packages that we do, what we did is, buying a home can be stressful.
Yeah.
There's all the paperwork, there's finding the home. And so then once you've got the home, once you've bought the home, then also worrying about picking it when it's a new build, worrying about picking every single material out in the house
Right.
adds a whole nother
Could be
stressful element.
overwhelming. Could be
It
overwhelming.
is, because there's thousands and thousands of options. And if that's not what you
Right.
do, and if your spouse and you don't have, the same opinions on things, again, it creates tension. So we went in and we
Sure.
created 10 different collections
Okay.
that I have personally chosen every single material in there. You don't have to worry about, is this material going to look good at night or the day, or is this gray the right tone as the carpet or the backsplash? Because my team and I, we've already done that. We've laid it out in every
Gotcha.
light, day and night. We've put it all together. There's New Mediterranean, there's Bohemian, there is modern farmhouse, there's organic modern, there's transitional. I forget all of them off the top of my head, but there's something
Yeah.
for everyone. And then we created a design quiz, a style finder, where you go
I saw
onto their
that.
website. And the questions aren't just about design because a lot of times you have in your mind what you think is your
People,
aesthetic.
people have
Yeah.
no idea. People have
Yeah. Yeah.
no idea.
Based on, oh yeah, well, I love Magnolia. So, oh yeah, modern farmhouse. You just pick that because you're like, oh, that's popular. I've heard that a lot.
Oh,
But this quiz, it talks about your favorite vacations, your favorite article of clothing, food. It really tries to get into your psyche. And then you're like, well, your dream vacation is Italy and this and that. And they're like, actually, New Mediterranean would be perfect
right.
for you. And people are like, oh my, and they'll actually give you a percentage. You'll get two options. One will be like, you're like 60% New Mediterranean and you're like 40% modern farmhouse. And a lot of times people will be like, I never would have thought this was my aesthetic, but oh my God, now that I see it in front of me and I think of like, yes, this feels
This
like
is it.
home.
No.
So we did that, and that's available in every market that Tri Pointe is in nationwide.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then with Tri Pointe Seattle, I almost called them Quadrant because that used to be the name of that division before Tri Pointe rebranded everything. Um,
Okay. Altera
they're
sounds way
they're
better, by the way. That,
well,
that
no,
that's a
Altera,
very
yeah, Altera is the community.
okay. Okay.
Quadrant
Gotcha.
used to be the name of the home builder. So back in
Oh, okay.
2014, Tri Pointe acquired a collection of small boutique home builders around the U.S., and one of them was in
Okay.
Seattle. And over the last 10 years, everyone's been rebranded Tri Pointe under the corporate umbrella. But I worked with
Okay.
them for so many years, I still think of them as the old brand name.
Yeah.
Um, but so Altera, that community is beautiful. It's perched right in the middle of some beautiful nature trails, which I really love. They also, right in the middle of the community, I think they left 9 acres right in the middle of just open space and put a lot of just like community use amenities that are just really nice. You don't, again, find that very often with builders who are just trying to get in as many lots as they possibly can. And these homes really thought a lot about indoor outdoor, and a
Yeah,
lot of covered indoor outdoor. Obviously, in Seattle,
you
you
need
can
that.
spend a lot of time outside. You just need it to be covered because of the rain.
Exactly.
Temperature wise, it's great, but it's a little wet. And then just the finishes that we were able to do. We did a lot of, there's a lot of tech in Seattle, obviously. And there's a
Totally.
lot of great work from home situations, hybrid work from homes. But one of the things that we found over the last few years with COVID is we've just kind of usually turned like a spare bedroom into our home office,
Yeah.
which can be great. But sometimes you don't necessarily have a spare bedroom to spare, either for kids or you really do want to be able to have guests. Not to mention, when you're working in that room, you're kind of cut off from the rest of the house. If you have kids, you can't really see what the kids are doing. You don't, again, you're completely cut off. So one of the things that we did is we created true dedicated office space in these houses. In one of the houses, it's right off the main living area, and we actually glassed it in. So although you
Okay.
have your privacy, you can
You
close the
still see
door,
everything.
and you can still. So if you're working from home because your kid is homesick, you want to be able to see your kid. So
Without question. Yeah.
to close yourself off in a bedroom that you've turned to the office doesn't make sense. So, and then in the other house, we did an upstairs office. And I mean, these offices are a really good size as well, off of the great room upstairs. And again, we put a glass door and a glass wall. So that way, although you have your privacy, you can be on your Zooms, your kids aren't going to bother you. You can lock that door to keep them out. You can still keep an eye on what's going on in the house. So we
Well,
really
and the
thought
great thing
about,
about that.
I was
Oh
just
no,
going to say,
keep
we
going.
really thought about the way people live in their homes now, especially
Mm.
in metropolises like Seattle, where there are so many tech companies with hybrid work environments.
Well, and I was thinking about that when you were saying it. The great thing about that is, having that glass enclosure, instead of opening the door and interrupting you, can be like, hold up, you see me. Don't come in right now. I'm
Yeah,
busy.
yes,
This,
yes.
this,
And,
this is an
and in
important call.
And in one of them, we actually did a glass gym too. So down in the basement, there's a huge family room with a big screen TV. And so we put a gym down there with glass walls. So that way, again, if you want to be on your exercise bike and you want to be on a Zoom, you can be in there doing what you need to do, but you can still see what's going on with the kids.
Love
Because the
that.
whole
Love that.
point of often working from home is being able to still have that time with family, at least through glass.
Yeah, at least through glass. So you're close enough. Talking about this is the collab series. Obviously, you've collaborated with them now for over 10 years almost,
Yeah.
and this I believe is like the 15th or 16th community. How do you
Oh God, I think even
identify?
more than that. Like,
Oh, okay. So I think they said 15. I think they said you had 15 prior or whatever, but could be even more.
I think that might have just been like in the last year.
Real? Oh, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's just been like in the last year.
Oh, okay. So you guys are busy. How do you identify a good collaboration? And then to as a second part of that is one that has staying power, right? Because people talk about getting in collabs and working with different companies, and entities, and obviously it being a bridge, and what you can create as a group or as a team, maybe more so than you can
Hmm.
do individually, right? And that seems like what you're doing with the design aspect of it. But you guys have been doing, you said over 15 this year, been doing it for over 10 years. How do you identify one that works, and how do you know when it works?
For me, when it comes to partnerships, even design, like endorsement deals, license partnerships for my design business, I identify ones that are good if they're legit, if they're real.
Yeah,
Like, I'm not one of those people that will just do a partnership with somebody just because I'm getting a check. Like, it needs to
totally.
be a partnership that is either a product that I actually already use in my day-to-day life, or something that
Yeah,
since they brought to me is like, oh my God, yes, this will make my
this
life
is
better.
amazing.
Yes,
Exactly.
I will actually be using this because I don't like just, for lack of better words, whoring out my name and my brand,
Yeah,
just for anybody who wants to pay me to do so. I, I, I take a lot of pride in doing partnerships that are real. And that with the Tri Pointe partnership, it is a real partnership. The very first home I ever designed was for them. And
yeah.
it's been a great partnership, and it only made sense to. I always say we dated for 8 years, and then after 8 years, we finally got married.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you can tell when it's a stretch. You can tell when the brands
yeah,
aren't aligned, and it's like, okay, this feels like too salesy for me. This feels
yeah.
not
Yep.
not truly genuine. You can tell.
Yeah, I recently I'm a spokesperson for Amazon Smart Things for their
Okay.
for
Yeah.
well, I shouldn't say smart things. That's a Samsung brand. For Amazon's connected devices, like Ring
Yes.
cameras and Alexa and Blink. And when they first came to me, they're like, "Oh, we want to know if these are products that you actually use." And I open up my phone and I scroll through like the 54 different Ring cameras that I have and the Blink cameras in the Alexa, and I was like, literally, I have more notifications on my phone from Ring than any single thing out there. I'm like, absolutely, So I
Yeah.
love working with them because it really is something that I can say, this will change your
You
life.
use.
Yeah.
Totally, totally. Talk about branding. It was funny. I was thinking about this when we were getting research for this conversation, and I was like, okay, you think of these icons of design, icons of business, right? You think of people with one name, maybe Oprah or Madonna or whatever.
Mhm.
How did you get Bobby as your IG handle? Like, like, how was that even? Did you know? Were you like early on, and you were just like, you know what? Let me just get Bobby because I'm gonna be, it's gonna work out,
It's
and I'm gonna be on TV later on. How did you even do that?
it's funny because people will be like, "Oh, what's your Instagram?" And I'm like, "Bobby." They're like, "Bobby what?" I'm like, "Just Bobby." And they're like, "Oh, just Bobby." And I'm like, "No, no, Bobby, just
Bobby,
at
Bobby,
Bobby." And they're like, "Wait,
Bobby.
how?" Um,
That's
no, I mean it was Bobby Berk for years, but then the
okay.
show came out, and I kind of wanted it to be a little bit more iconic. And I looked, and like somebody had it, but they weren't using it. It was
Okay.
just kind of somebody had registered it years ago, and it was just dormant. And so I reached out to Instagram, and I was like, can I have this?" And they're like, "Sure." They gave it to me.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, today that's super cool. Today we're talking. I think 4 years ago was World Mental Health Day, World Mental Health
Hmm.
Awareness Day. Your book, Right at Home: How Good Design is Good for the Mind. Right. It's about a year ago. You launched it September of last year.
Hmm. Yeah.
Let's talk about that because I think this is obviously it was a few days ago. Talking about mental health awareness. In your book, talking about the impacts of design on your mental health, on your space, and
Hmm.
how you just interact and how you feel about that, how you feel as a person when you interact and live within great design.
A lot of times people don't correlate their surroundings with their mental health, but if anything, if COVID taught me anything, it's how important your surroundings are. A lot of times we'll be like, "Oh, the chaos in my home doesn't affect me." No, it does. Chaos
It
around you
does.
creates chaos in your mind. And when your home is cluttered, when it's disheveled, when it's not organized, it really does have effect. I always say that an organized bathroom cabinet can prevent road rage. And people are like, "What?" I'm like,
I'm gonna,
you
I'm
go.
gonna I don't. I want. I was gonna say I'm gonna use that for my girlfriend, but she still has road rage, even though she's super organized. So I don't know what. I don't know what it is, but
I
when
would say,
she.
you get this new face cream and you're so excited. You're going to use it tomorrow morning, and you open up your medicine cabinet and you put it in there, and you're like, "Oh, it barely fits because I have not thrown away all the other crap that I should have thrown away, but I'm gonna
That's
shove
what
it in
it
there
is.
anyways. I'm gonna
That's what
close
it
that
is.
door." And then the next morning you get up and you're like, "Oh, I can't wait to be so beautiful today with this new face cream." And you open up the door and it falls out and it shatters all over the cabinet because you did not throw away the old crap that you should have. So then by the time you get down to the kids are pissing you off more than they normally would. And then by the time you get on the road and that person cuts you off, that's it. And if you had just
Right.
thrown away those empty prescription bottles or those old face creams that were, you wouldn't have broke it. You wouldn't have had road rage. You wouldn't have yelled at your poor angel little children more than you should have. So it's little things like that. And that's what this book is about. It's not about me
Yeah.
telling you what you should do, what look you should use. Again, the beginning of the book is kind of like the style quiz that we did for Tri Pointe. It's helping you figure out what's the right look for you.
Identify. Yeah.
Yeah, it's helping you realize that the things that you should put in your home are things that make you happy, not just
Hmm.
what the latest trend is. And then we go into color theory, talking about which colors are more relaxing, which colors are energizing, which colors create anxiety. Then we talk about lighting, bright white light energizes you. It's the same kind of light that you get from the sun. Warm amber light helps you relax more. Dimming your lights at night at least an hour before you go to bed is what will have your body start producing melatonin, and that way you'll go to sleep. So many people are like, I lay in bed awake for at least an hour every single night. I'm like, well, do you dim your lights before an hour before you go to bed? And they're like, well, no, I'm just sitting under a bright light or I'm looking at my phone. I'm like,
Phone.
yeah, your body had no idea it was time to go to bed because it's still
Yeah,
sitting under
totally.
bright lights. So dim those lights about an hour before. And so it's the book is all about looking at your home in again in a mental health kind of way, from sleep to color to lighting to what makes you happy, organization. There's a whole chapter about design and grief. There's a whole chapter about organizing spaces for your kids. It's really cool because again, it's not me telling you this is my design aesthetic and this is what your home should look like. It's me helping you figure out what yours is.
Yeah, and that I mean, and that's so important because, like I said earlier, nobody knows what they like. Like it's so,
Yep.
like no one they think they've seen either what's new, what's trending, what they're told, what they're fed. That's this supposed to be
Yep.
popular, what they think
Exactly.
is like, and they're like, okay, but do I really identify with that? Do I really align with that? Does that give me the warm and fuzzy whenever I'm in that outfit or in that home or in that space or whatever? I could not have you on and not talk about 2025. This is crazy. We're all like close to it.
Yeah.
2025 trends. What are you seeing? What would you like to see?
I've,
What do you want to
I
see
have
go away?
I have no idea, honestly. I am the worst. I don't pay attention to trends at all because I don't want to
Yeah,
design by them. You know,
right.
I am really sick of just the all cream everything. You know, the
Hmm.
light wood cabinets, the light floors, the marble with the brown gray graining in it, and I'm so sick of seeing that.
So tired.
Yeah,
It's
I want some more depth. I want a little color. It doesn't have to be a lot
some
of color.
personality. Just
Yes,
personality.
yes. I'm just yeah, and this is not a knock on her because I love her. I think she's so talented, and even she has moved on from this. But I'm so sick of seeing a Shea McGee house over and over and over.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and again, like they're beautiful the way she did it, but because her look was so popular, everybody else is doing it now. And I know now she's like, okay, let me move on to something else because I'm sick of seeing this too. You know,
exactly.
but everybody has just copied that, very clean, modern cream and light woods everywhere. And I'm so sick of it. Like
Yeah.
even my house, we live in a mid-century. We're gonna remodel it soon. And I've
Okay.
never been one for color in my house. That being
Okay.
said, I am so sick of just everything being neutral that I am putting green tiles.
Ooh. Okay.
I'm putting this beautiful green marble island. I'm doing like navy blue tiles in one of the bathroom. I'm going crazy with color, which is so not me. But I think I'm
Yeah.
just so sick of seeing just all neutral. I'm going like real old school mid-century in this house.
Well, and the great thing about that is that you identify and like document obviously with you all your designs and as you go through time. It's like a timestamp, right? You're like, okay,
Yeah.
I can identify, what I was feeling in 2024. I was tired of seeing so many neutrals. So that's
Yeah.
why I have all this color at this time. But then maybe by 2030 it might have changed, but at least
Yeah.
you can see like, okay, this was the phase or this is the
Yep.
season I was in.
And it's funny in design, as designers, we can kind of look at a home and was like, oh, that was designed from like
Right.
96 to 2001, or, like Kelly Green. And oh, that was
Exactly.
designed in 2014 to 16. You can just, we knew the trends, so we know. And so as a designer now, I really try to shy away from looking at the trends and designing by the trends because it is such a timestamp on your home that I try to incorporate, different things.
Totally,
Yeah,
totally.
and
So
neutrals are
now,
fine. Neutrals are fine, but they need to be balanced with, like our one of our homes that we have our offices in that I'm actually putting on the market this week. It's quite neutral,
mhm,
but it has light oak floors, but then we have black kitchen cabinets.
exactly.
So you
Well,
balance it. You balance it.
well, neutral is a great canvas, right?
Hmm.
Like it's an amazing canvas, but you need to have the juxtaposition to give it the personality, right? You need to add
Exactly.
pieces here and there and these touches where you're like,
Yep.
okay, and then really you can see the beauty within it because it does have that juxtaposition as opposed to everything being on one note.
Yep.
So what is next? I saw that you just I think when your office is just going on the market. What is next for you? Are we seeing more books? Are we going to see more shows? Instagram, skits, of
Yeah.
course, they're hilarious.
I
What's next?
Yeah, I actually have multiple new shows that I'm working on. Some that
Okay,
I'll be on camera, some that I am cultivating new talent, and I'll be executive
awesome.
producing for them. Um, I might do another book. I don't know. The right at home, I did enough research and wrote enough that I probably actually have another book in there already written. Um,
Mhm.
They're quite time consuming though. You know, I wrote this one during
Yeah.
COVID when I didn't have a whole
Where you
lot of other things to do.
had a little
I
more
have
time to
I
yourself.
have I have horrible ADD. It's really hard for me to do those type of things. I'm much better out doing physical stuff. So yeah, lots of new shows coming out. You know, our partnership with Tri Pointe, we have probably a few dozen communities that we're doing in the next 6 to 12 months. We have a really fun project that we're starting in Salt Lake City.
Okay.
So this will be Tri Pointe's first project in Salt Lake City, actually in Utah. They just launched their Utah division, so we're
Gotcha.
we're doing it with a really cool, unique. I can't say much about it yet, but it's going to be really cool. It's going to be
Under
very
wraps.
it'll be very unique and out of the box for what Tri Pointe normally does. So I'm excited to do it. Yeah.
And then I think I have to ask selfishly, Portugal.
Ah,
W-
yes.
Yes, you spend part of your time there because I think I mentioned offline like I want to go there. I want to visit. I want to move there. And I think you're in one of the greatest spaces. But we won't talk too much about that because you said it was just listed as like one of the best places to go to or live
Yeah, yeah. So I won't say where we live because I don't want people going there.
in.
But
We'll keep
we
that
we
under
live
wraps.
in the area we live. It's called the Algarve, and it's the southern coast of Portugal. It's we, you know, lots of Portuguese have their summer homes, and it's just wonderful. We love it there. The people, the food, the weather. The weather is very similar to Southern California. It's just a really great country. You know, we bought a home
Yeah.
there almost 2 years ago.
Okay.
We're getting our citizenship, and yeah,
Very
we
cool.
we sadly don't get to spend as much time over there as we'd like. We always plan on spending all of December and January there, and that those 8 weeks somehow always get whittled down to like three. Something else always comes up. You know, there's always something that pops up in early January that I end up having to come home for. You know, this
Yeah.
year, you know, where we've got the inauguration on the 20th, and I'm really hoping it's one I want to go to.
Oh my.
You
Yes.
know, so we
Yes.
had originally we had planned on being in Portugal through early February, but I was like, oh wait, no, 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 we got to be back to DC by the 20th.
So hopefully you have a reason to come back.
Yes.
Hopefully
Or because
hopefully oh you
if I
will.
don't have a reason, if I don't have a
There you
reason to come back on January 20th, I might just not come back.
There you go. There you go. I mean, yes. I mean, you could be worse places, but hopefully, I'm selfishly saying, hopefully you'll come back in time, and then just tell your team don't take on any more residential projects for 2026, and you'll be able to spend more time there for that year.
Yeah, I wish. I wish. It's too early in my life to. Although over there, I do want to open up hotels soon.
Okay. Oh,
In
okay.
Portugal. So yeah,
Yes.
that's my next little dabble in design. I already have a few hospitality properties in the desert in Palm Desert.
I saw
We
that. Okay.
Airbnb them, but they're basically miniature resorts. They're, you know,
Yeah.
10 to 12 bedrooms, multiple homes on the property. They're cool. So I'm dabbling my toe in that, and then eventually I want to do my
Love it, love it. Well, we can't wait to see what's next. More projects, the shows. If I said the books, whenever you want to let that out, let us know, and then we'll keep
definitely.
on Facebook the Tri Pointe the Homes. But Bobby, thank you for taking out your time. It's been a pleasure.
Of course, Brandon. Thank you so much.
All right.